give you a quick summary of what characterization is and why you need to do it, right? So, whenever you talk about something, whenever you're trying to prove a point, there is a world that you're trying to prove it in, right? So, for example, I might be talking about women, where women of a particular region, right? It could be a rural region, it could be an urban region. I could be talking about, say, feminism, which is an idea, right? What are the concepts that are included in that idea? So there are a lot of things like this. So before you before you try to convince somebody about some points of yours, you need to tell them what the world that you are actually talking about looks like, what the people in that world look like, and what you're actually talking about. So that sets the whole stage about the things that you're trying to prove. Whenever you are trying to prove an argument, right? This is also something which I'll be covering in the presentation. Whenever you try to whenever you try to prove something, like you give an argument, there are several steps to it. So you need a starting point, right? You need a starting point that this is how this certain set of people, or this certain country, or this ideology, this is what it looks like, and from there you build upon to actually prove some things. So let me just take an example. If I'm talking about, let's say, I'm talking about how feminism should focus on the struggles of rural women, for example. So I'll need to first tell the people, the judges, that what feminism looks like. What does feminism care about? Then I need to tell what rural places look like, what people there talk about, what people there care about, what are the troubles of the women there, right? So I need to tell all of that, how the situation is, how it looks. So that is why characterization is very important. Moreover, when you like get a big motion, it is worded in a certain way. So you need to first talk about what that motion actually means. There might be some terms within the motion that might not be very well described, right? So you need to tell that, as say government or as opposition, what those words mean to you. So I hope that's clear. And
Okay, sir, I got it. So, like, just confirming, characterization basically means that you're explaining everything briefly and you're supporting your argument, and yeah, that's what characterization is,
uh,
right?
ca- characterization comes before most of your arguments. It is like the base on which you go on about telling your arguments. Like, you just define that this is what is we are this is what we are going to be talking about, and this is what the situation looks like, right? So I guess now I'll be moving to my presentation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, and I'll present it.
Sir, I was actually late, so could you please repeat what you just said?
I was just giving a recap of the characterization session that was given before. I am just starting my presentation. I haven't covered much yet. So I'll be talking about rebuttals, POIs, and rebuilding. You all can see the PPT presentation, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So first, rebuttals. So like basically what rebuttal is, it's basically a reply to what the other team has come and said, right? So a debate has two sides. So not only do you just need to tell that this is all that our side thinks and says, you also have to take into consideration what the other side is saying as well. It is actually usually, even with me, when I started debating, this is actually kind of a second thought, I would say. Like, people don't really think about it as much. They feel that I have to explain my side very well, and that will make the judge believe in my side. That is true. But what happens is the judge doesn't think like you. The judge isn't in your mind. They also listen to the arguments that are given by the other team as well. So you have to explicitly point it out to them that whatever they have said, that is wrong. This is why, and this is what is right on our side, right? So that is what a rebuttal constitutes. You basically show the judge that what they are saying doesn't hold, rather it is what we are saying that holds. POIs basically stand for points of information. It is a question that you can ask during a debate to the other team person. And rebuilding just means just if your case is rebutted to by the opposition, or if they ask you a PI, then how do you rebuild your case and tell the judge that our point still holds even with whatever they have said. uh, okay. If you have any questions, you can just like interrupt me and I'll answer. I also have some doubt slides in the presentation as well. Was somebody saying something?
Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt, but I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to confirm: are like rebuttals may can we include allegations? Because if we're like specifically j- like so if we like find some problem in the other person, like in our opponent's speech, so we have to bring that up. Is that rebuttals and are allegations included? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so whatever case the opposition will be presenting, right? You will also hear it, and you will see that okay, these are the problems in their case, and this is why their case doesn't stand. So that is what you'll be covering in your rebuttals. You will be telling the judge that whatever case they've presented, this is why their case doesn't hold. Uh, yeah. So first, we'll be talking about rebuttals. Like I said, it is a response to the opposition's case, right? And you will tell them that you'll tell the judge that whatever argument they've provided, this is not true. And you may also provide an alternative, or you may talk about your own case as well. So rebuttals are like very vital to winning a debate, because then it helps judges see that they are wrong, the opposition team that's wrong, and we what we are saying is actually true. So there are several reasons why you actually need rebuttals and why they're actually so important, even though they may seem like it's just secondary content, something that you add on, but it's actually like it's very central to the whole debate. First of all, it helps you engage with the other team's case. What do I mean by this? So when you're debating, what often happens with novice debaters is like uh, one team is speaking about the benefits of their side, the other team is speaking about the benefits of their side. uh, However, they don't engage with each other's case much. uh, for example, I'll give you an example of my own debate. It was my third debate. I think I hadn't I hadn't started debating properly, and the debate was something along the lines that the government should give more money to the.
Sir, you're not.
Is it only me or you guys?
Okay, guys, guys.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was my connection.
Guys, you'll just confirm from him. Everyone, please maintain silence within.
His side wanted, right? Now what
Also,
happens in such a
sorry to
yeah,
interrupt,
yeah,
sir.
go on.
You were frozen in middle, so can you please repeat this entire thing?
Okay. So I was just giving you an example why you need rebuttals and why you need to engage with the other team's case. Usually what happens is when you just start debating, you tend to run parallel cases with the opponents. Like the opponent will speak their side, why their side of the motion should be carried out, and you will be speaking yours. Like in my case, I was saying the government should give money to primary schools because the condition is very bad and they reach many students. It's more universal, etc., etc. The My opponent, he was saying that uh, they should continue to give more money to universities because universities have higher expenditure and stuff like that, right? So what we tend to think is that, yeah, maybe they are right in their place, I'm right in my place, and we continue to run parallel arguments, talking about our side only. But what that does is, as a judge, when I see both the cases, like team A is telling me this, team B is telling me this, and neither team is actually engaging with the other team's case, they are not proving to me that the other team's case is wrong, they are just continuing on and on about their own side, then I don't know which team to believe, right? For me, as a neutral observer, they both are talking about their own sides, and I don't know which team is actually right, which team I should believe more. And then it is solely on to me, I can go with either side. It's basically almost like rolling dice, right? And you don't want that. What you want is, you want to go into the debate and you want to show that whatever the other team is saying, that is false. So that is why you need to continuously engage with the other team's case and show that not only are you right, but they are wrong, and hence you are the clear winner. Okay. So you need to counter their arguments, and you need to continuously show that your case is better than theirs, because a debate is always comparative. So you need to continuously compare your own case with their case, and the rebuttals are a great way to do that. So now, how and where you can find rebuttals, right? So this is actually a very big topic, but I'll try to summarize it. In any argument, there are uh, mostly three points: a premise or an assertion. Like uh, this is something that they will start with, right? If they have an argument and they're trying to prove that what they are saying is actually correct, they will actually have a statement that they start with. Uh, like whenever we are trying to prove something, so there is something which we will uh, that we will consider to be true. Whenever they're trying to prove something that they're saying, if you keep asking how and why, like the example was given that students commit more suicides because of exams, right? So let me say I'm trying to prove something like that. So the mechanization, as was explained, is is each step along that, how I go. Let me take a simpler example. Let's say the house says the house prefers apples over oranges. So one of the arguments may be oranges are healthier than apples. Okay, so that is one argument that can be uh, taken by Team Gov to prove that apples are better than oranges. So they may say that apples are healthier than oranges. They will start with an assertion. For example, let's say uh, apples have a higher quantity of vitamin A, for example, right? So that will be their assertion. Then they can provide a mechanization that since it has more vitamin A. Vitamin A is useful for this reason in our body. It is required for all this. Hence, once we consume more apples, we consume more vitamin A, and these bodily functions get better, and so we live a healthier life. So this will be the whole mechanization of how they reached from uh, of how they reach from apple has more vitamin A to apples are healthier, right? So all the steps in between from reaching point A to point B, that is a part of mechanization. But the point A itself, from where they start, that is the assertion or the premise that they are giving you. And the impact is basically what their argument's impact is. Like if we lead a healthier life, we will live longer, we will be more active, and we can do more activities, stuff like that. That will be their impact. So the very components of a good argument are the components that you will find the rebuttals in. So like these 3 points that I talked about: assertion, mechanization, and impact. uh, you should try to find your you should try to base your rebuttals in this order only. uh, Let me tell you why. See, it is very easy to rebut on the impact, right? usually impact is the easiest part to rebut, because they'll say a lot of things, and you have many ways to rebut an impact. Let's say, let's take the feminism in rural areas motion. They say that the impact is that uh, if feminism if feminism focuses more on rural women, then they will get empowered and gain more education, for example, right? So the impact could be they get more education, they will have more opportunities, and they'll get more jobs, and so on and so forth. So the impact, you could challenge the impact like very easily. You could challenge any aspect of the impact. That you could say that they might not get good jobs because even with education, they might not have the same opportunities as the men of the rural area, other people in urban areas, right? Basically, impacts are easy to rebut. Mechanization is a little harder. Like I described, you get from point A to point B, their assertion to what they're actually trying to prove. So this involves a series of steps. So if you keep at every step, if you keep asking why and how, like first you will ask how this happened, right? And then at each step you will ask like why what they are claiming, this whole series of steps. Why is this true? This is a little harder to challenge, but it is a better thing to take out. And thirdly, the assertion, what they are trying to, like the starting point. This is the most destructive of all of these three, but it is quite hard to challenge the assertion because in most cases, their assertion will usually be true. Like in the apples and oranges case, it will be very rare that they claims an assertion which is simply untrue, or which is very obviously untrue. For example, if they say something like apples have more vitamin C than oranges, right? If they base their entire health argument on this claim, then you know this assertion is false. Oranges contain more vitamin C than apples, and if you directly target this, if you tell the judge that their assertion itself is wrong, uh, oranges contain more vitamin C, then everything that they've followed it with, all the mechanization, all the impact, it just directly falls, right? As soon as their basic assertion falls, nothing else stands. So hence, it's the most destructive of all of these. So you should try to always target the assertion, but it will also be the hardest to take out. I will also be I will also be talking more about this later, how you can like actually target assertions. Meanwhile, mechanizations are a little easier to counter. Let me talk about it with an example. Say there is a motion that is talking about China invading Sudan, for example, right? Uh, Now, let's say the opposition team comes and says that if China sends its troops to Sudan, then America might get offended because of its ego, and Americans might think that how can these Chinese people have a larger world stage than us? And hence the Americans will be offended and they'll send their armies to fight. The thing is that their what the argument they're trying to say, it can actually happen that the Americans might retaliate to Chinese invasion in the Sudan, but that will not because their ego is hurt, right? It will probably be somewhere along the lines that it is a strategic, it's a region of strategic importance, and how Chinese influence might actually pose a threat to them and their allies and gain more resources, and so on and so forth. So that is the mechanization that they should have followed. However, if they mechanize it as simply that the Americans' ego will get hurt, right? That is not a very good mechanization. It probably does not hold, right? So when you ask how did they get from uh, how did they get to this Americans retaliating and so on, you will find that they have said that their ego will get hurt. And you can see that this is not a valid argument. Why? Because a country will probably focus more on the outcomes of war. See, a war is a very big thing, right? Just because some country's ego is hurt is not a very good reason to get involved in that war. It will lead to loss of resources, it will lead to loss of soldiers, right? So you can challenge their mechanization easily by saying that, see, your ego is not a very big player in this case, and they will think about so and so and so on, and this is why America will actually not retaliate. You can rebut like that. And as I covered, impact is very easy to rebut. Taking the same example, let's say they give an impact along the lines that once the Americans retaliate, it will lead to a world war and something like that. They build up an impact that is like that big. So you can counter that as well. You can say that even if, now this even if analysis I'll also bring up later, you can just say that even if the Americans do decide to retaliate, it will not lead to a world war because other nations will not participate as much. And once the Americans interfere, then the Chinese will feel that they are under threat as well. So they will take back their troops and so on and so forth. You can impact this, right?
Excuse
So the
me.
main, yeah, yeah, go on.
I just wanted to ask something.
Yeah,
So, you just said that if you want to rebut mechanization, it's a little difficult, right? So, you
yes,
said that we have to ask questions as how and everything at each and every step. So, like, how
yes.
do we do that? Like, for example, a debate is it's going on, and how do we like interrupt in between? Like, do we take it as a POI or do we take it as a
Okay,
rebut?
okay. When I say ask questions, I mean mean to yourself. Like whenever they are presenting their case, they'll be giving a stepwise analysis that this is what happens, then this is what happens, then this is what happens, right? So at every step, you can ask yourself like, what are they saying? Why is this true? And if their analysis has a clear link that shows why this is true, then it's fine. Then you move on to the next step. But if not, then what you have found is actually a gap within their reasoning that they have not exactly told, and there you can that is where you can rebut to their point, right? One more thing which I would like to cover here is that if you take out the assertion, then as I explained, everything else that they explained, that just like goes out of the window. It makes no sense. If the very assumption that they're basing their whole case on, if you have proven that to be false, then it doesn't matter what further mechanization they have provided, it doesn't matter what impact they have told, because the base assertion itself is untrue. So none of their points stands. If you take out the mechanization, then you show that their journey from point A to point B is incomplete and will probably not occur. So that takes out the impact. It pretty much takes out the impact if you prove to them that you do not reach from point A to point B. And if you just take out the impact, it does make a difference, but it is obviously less than the previous two. So that is why I've written that assertion, mechanization, impact. This is a decreasing order of difficulty, but it is also a decreasing order of the reward that you will get. Uh, Moving on, how do you find where do you put these rebuttals? How do you find? Yeah, yeah, go on.
Sir, could you please tell the impact one? How to
Okay,
make an impact, the rebuttal on an impact.
yeah, okay. So in a debate, usually the other team will provide one, what argument they are trying to prove. Two, they will have a starting point, something they will assume to be true, and they will build up on that. Usually whatever they assume will be something that is true or that seems true, something which is close to human morals, somewhere along that lines. If you find that to be contestable, then if you are able to successfully contest it and break it down, then great, nothing stands. Further, from this basic point, they will provide an analysis how step by step this leads to something else. That something else being their main argument that they're talking about. Like, the how say apples being rich in vitamin A, step by step implies to you living a healthy life. So that is the mechanization, that journey from point A to point B, and the impact being like uh, if like once their argument that they're saying, once it's true, what impacts it will have on the stakeholders. The stakeholders are basically the people who are affected by the motion. So that is the impact that they will also be telling the impact. Like telling an impact is also important, because to the judge, why should your argument matter? If you have given an argument, you need to also tell the judge why this argument matters, and impact is a large part of that. That this is all the impact that my argument would create, and this is how it would benefit people, and so on and so forth. So that is basically the impact. So you can also choose to rebut the impact. You can state that one, their impact isn't of the their impact does not exist. Like, even if their argument is true, it does not mean that whatever impacts they are claiming are true. For example, even if they're true that apples are even if they prove that apples are healthier than orange, and they claim that this makes you live a longer life, and this makes you a more active individual, you can do more activities. Suppose this is the impact that they are claiming. You can say that see, fruits make up a very small part of our diet, and our health is actually more affected by other things, such as air pollution or whatever. You can talk about something like that, and hence you can say that even if you eat, or even if you eat apples rather than oranges, and even if apples are more healthy, you will still not have a lengthened life. Your life expectancy will still remain more or less the same. So you can contest their impacts in such a way. You can tell them that their impacts don't exist, or less favorable to that, you can also rebut that their impacts are not of the order that they are claiming. Like in the China America debate, you can say that maybe there will be a small battle between the two nations, but it will not erupt into a world war. So you can also contest the scale of the impact. So this is
if
basically how
we
you rebut
if we like
to different.
if we about talk about like you just said that the impact, you said if we talk about the fruits, so when you said that all of the fruits are considered something, so if we talk about that, then we would deviate out of the topic, and maybe the other team, it could pick up on that.
Okay. So what I said was, for example, they had taken an argument that apples are healthier than oranges, and the impacts that they were showing was, if you eat more apples than oranges, if you eat more apples which are healthier, you will live a healthier life, and that healthier life means you have a more life expectancy, you have a more active lifestyle, and you are able to do more stuff, basically. If this is
Excuse me.
the Yeah, yeah.
So sorry to interrupt. So I just wanted to like clarify our rebuttals, where how we can find them. So basically, so from what I can understand, we just have to find the weak points in the speech of our opponent. As you had given an example that they said apples are better than oranges, or oranges are better than apples. So we can like find that as a weak point, that if they said that, and we can use it against them, although it wasn't like yeah, really noticeable by them, but we have to be very observant basically.
Yeah. uh, you have to like constantly look for like weak points, as you said. uh, Usually they will mess up somewhere, right? It will it is less likely to be in their assertion, but you should consider it nonetheless. They might miss a step or two in the mechanization, or they might have some logical inconsistency while moving from one step to the other step. You can contest that as well, that okay, till here is fine, this will happen, but from here this will not happen, rather this will happen. So you can contest that as well. And you can also point out a weak impact as well, right? You can contest that this impact will not occur, or maybe the scale of the impact will be lesser. So you have to constantly be looking out for weaknesses in your in what your opponents are saying. And even if they do not have a weakness, even if you're not able to find a weakness in their speeches, you can still rebut by weighing. I'll be coming to the topic of weighing in a bit, although I'll be not be speaking at length about it, but I'll still be introducing it a bit. Uh, yeah. So you have to listen. Listening is very important, because if you don't listen to what they have said, you can't rebut. Usually one thing that debaters often do is they are uh, crafting their own speech during the debate as well, or they are rehearsing, they are thinking about what they have to say. I would say it's better if you listen to the speeches that are being delivered more, right? Because as a debater, as I said, a debate is always comparative between the two sides, and you have to know what the other team is saying if you wish to rebut to that. So listening listening is crucial. So instead of maybe writing out your speech or finishing your speech in that time, you can focus on what the other speakers are saying. You can note down the major arguments that they are making, that this is what they said, and you will notice whatever flaws that they are giving, or whatever things that they have missed out on. Just make a note of it there, just like mark that this is where they missed a step, or this doesn't make sense, or this is how you could do it. Just make short notes like that, and that will really help you in your speech when you're talking about rebuttals. You'll be able to cover all the points that they have said, and you'll be able to rebut in a more efficient way. The next point is simple. If you are not able to listen to something, just like ask your teammates. And not just the opposite side. You should also try to listen to your own teammates speeches, whatever they are saying, because if you listen to them, then you will be able to respond to the rebuttals that the opposing team is giving to your teammates speech, right? For example, let's say you're the government let's say you're the deputy prime minister, and your PM has given a speech. Then you should listen to what the PM has said in the speech, because the LO will probably rebut many arguments in the PM speech, and you'll need to rebut to the LO back. So you need to know what your PM originally said to actually expand upon his points more. That is why you should like constantly listen to all the speeches uh, of your team as well as the opposite team. Secondly, you should prioritize. uh, you should not go by let me give you a common example. Like in news channels, often we see that when people are just like debating, so-called debating amongst each other, they will just pick a point that the other person said. It doesn't matter if it was the actual point that he was trying to make or not. It does not matter if the issue itself matters. They'll just pick that point, probably misrepresent it, and then they'll go at length blasting the other person about that point. That is not an efficient strategy in debating, because you could go on and on about proving why something the opposition said does not hold. But if that matter is not of importance to what the motion is actually about, if it's a very obsolete point or something that you are trying to misrepresent and talk about, and you devote a whole lot of time to it, then it's not going to help you. They will still win on the more important points, and you will lose time that you could have actually used to rebut the more important points. Hence, prioritization is very important. One strategy to prioritize would be what I told you earlier: assertions followed by mechanization followed by impact. That is a good way to strategize. Uh, you basically try to rebut their more crucial arguments rather than which are the easiest to rebut to. You could feel that okay, this part is very easily rebuttable. It does not make any sense, but do rebut to that, but don't devote too much of your time onto it. Focus more on the more important parts of their argument that brings down their argument completely. You want to destroy the other team's argument as much as you can before you along with building your own argument up, right? Uh, Furthermore, another thing that you need to take care about while prioritizing is that focus more on the material that they've said against your arguments. Like, for example, you are the government. Let's say you are speaking as the TPM. your PM came and gave a speech, gave a couple of arguments. The LO comes and rebuts those arguments and then gives some more arguments of their own. You should uh, prioritize the material that clearly interacts with your own case. The direct clashes, you need to focus more on that, because what the other team will try to do is they will try to destroy your arguments, and you need to reinforce them to the judge that no, they came and said whatever they said, but our argument still stands. If you don't do that, then whatever case you have built, it falls, right? So you need to focus more on the material which is directly contesting with your own material, and then you can go about to some points that are, say, not as important, or something that just the other team is talking about. Any doubts? Shreya, do you have a doubt?
No, sir.
Yeah, okay. uh, Fine, then I'll continue. So where do you place your rebuttal? Uh, so the first place where you the first place where you could give your rebuttal is in the first speech itself. Uh, it doesn't. You don't need to have the other team actually rebutting before you give a rebuttal. That sounds a little confusing. Let me emphasize. So it's called a preemptive rebuttal. The name does not really matter. What this basically means is, like in your prep time, you will think about all your points about your side of the motion and all the constructives that you have. Uh, but it will also be quite obvious to you that there are some points that the opposition will bring up. Uh, so seeing those points in your mind that the opposition will probably bring up these points, you give a rebuttal to them before they even raise it up. Okay, so so you're basically giving the rebuttal before they actually use an argument that they are saying. However, you have to be like quite careful about how you frame it. You don't want to buy into their case. You don't want to seem like you are supporting their case. You want to avoid statements like they might say so and so, but this is not true, because you don't want to say that. Rather, you want to be a bit more careful and sneaky about it. Like if you know that they are going to say so and so, and you know that this is going to be your reply, just uh, incorporate that reply within your speech. You don't need to explicitly mention that my opposition might say this and this. One, that doesn't sound good. Two, it actually gives them ideas, and they'll just then be able to like think about more how to uh, strengthen their case. Rather, if you just incorporate what how you are going to rebut, if you just incorporate that in your speech, uh, that just renders their point useless, and it's a bit tougher for them to think about. So that is the first thing that you can do. You can do a preemptive rebuttal. You can reinforce your speech in such a way that you already tackle with the arguments that your opposition is likely to give. Second is you integrate the rebuttal within your speech. This is usually done for the second speakers. So this is also the most, like I would say, the common types of rebuttals. You see whatever the other team has spoken about, then you find out the flaws. You point out whatever mistakes they have made, and you just incorporate that in as a part of your speech. You clearly tell the judge that this is what they have stated, this is what I'm talking about, and this is wrong because so and so, right? You can just continue with that. You should always leave some gap in your notes and note down what they've said, what are the mistakes in that, and how you can incorporate that in your speech. uh, Furthermore, as the second speaker, what you can do is, like this happens with me a lot actually. I go in depth with rebuttals to the opposition team's speeches, right? I It has happened with me that I've spent my entire speech duration just rebutting whatever the other team has said, and it leaves me with no time to actually talk about my own case. So to avoid this, what you can do is you can give a basic rebuttal to their points. Just explain in brief that this is what they did wrong, this is why they did it wrong. Just include that in brief, and then the whip, that is the last speaker, that can expand more on it, and you can just continue talking about your own case. Yeah.
Sir,
Next
I had a doubt.
is, yeah, yeah.
So you said that like we're supposed to like kind of like briefly give a rebuttal and then go along with our content. But what if like for example the first two speakers have given enough content, and so the third speaker has enough time or maybe doesn't have matter at that point? Can you give only rebuttals? Like will that bring you any
uh,
negative marking?
uh, See, rebuttals is actually, I would say, one of the most interactive parts of the debate. Like, you don't know what rebuttals you'll be having beforehand. You don't know how much time you will have to actually rebut to. You don't know the points that the opposing team will bring up. So it is actually very dynamic. You'll have to decide on the spot how much detail you can go into, how much time you have. Uh, like uh, as the first speaker, you'll probably not have to give rebuttals as much. The LO has to rebut to the PM, but still mostly the rebutting part falls on the second and third speakers. Uh, your speech as the second speaker must comprise of must have rebuttals, and it depends on what the first speaker has said, right? So the first speaker will also come in of your team will come in and cover their material, so you'll have a certain amount of material left that you have to cover. So according to that, you can see how much rebuttals you can do. Try to cover all the points that the opposing team has brought up, because okay, I'm digressing a little bit here, but as a whip, you cannot bring up any new content in the debate. You have to like continue from what has already been talked about in a debate. So a whip can actually go in depth about rebuttals a lot. They have they can do that. As a DPM or a DLO, you have a lot to cover. You have to cover your own constructives, continue along the lines of what the first speaker has said, as well as you have to rebut to what the opposing team has said. So depending on how much content you have and how much time you have, you can go into according depth with your rebuttals. If I find that there is always content to say. Usually, you probably wouldn't fall out of. You will probably not fall short of content once you are practiced enough when you debate. At the beginning, it's a little tough. You fell short, but once you get used to debating, you'll probably have something or the other to say. Then you have to attribute enough time for your rebuttals and for your constructives. I hope that answers the question.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
in preemptive rebuttals, if we have a point that we think that the opposition will give, so should we add the rebuttal in the speech or not?
Yes, yes. Eh, if it's like quite obvious, let's take the feminism motion for example, that feminism would focus more on rural women. Uh, or let's take another example. Uh, the house supports the house supports commercial surrogacy. So basically, let's say this is the motion: the house supports commercial surrogacy, and you are the government. So let's say you are the opposition. You oppose commercial surrogacy. Then it is clear to you that government will bring up a point of parents who are infertile or who can't have their own children for some reason, and hence surrogacy provides them a way to get children of their own, right? So this is an argument that the government will for sure bring up in a case where they are supporting commercial surrogacy. So you know that this is going to be talked about. So what do you do as the LO? You go ahead and you incorporate into your speech that these parents have other alternatives that they can go to. They can say adopt or they have other alternatives, for example adoption, and you can incorporate this in your LO speech. What this does is it weakens the case of the government before even they bring this argument up, right? So was that clear, or do you need more explanation?
Yeah, it was clear.
Yeah.
So,
So
what is this
usually,
point of
yeah.
integrating? Leave enough space on your papers. It must be easy to navigate. Mean I didn't catch it.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So usually, when you give a speech in a debate, you should try to avoid writing like lengthy sentences, like fully structuring your speech, because that leaves very little space for you to improvise during whatever during the debate, relating to whatever the opposition team has said. So you should like keep space within your page wherever you are taking notes. You should write in bullet points, and as I said, in that space you can write whatever the opposing team has said, and you can also write what mistakes they did, what are their weak points that you can rebut to, and how you can rebut to that you can write. So if you are integrating that rebuttal within your speech, then you should have enough space in your speech bullet points to write that these are the rebuttals that I'll be giving. Because what happens is, because the other team presents so many arguments, sometimes we usually miss out on some of the arguments. So that is what it means.
Okay, and sir, the preemptive rebuttals should be the most vital ones, right? Because you have to attack the main idea because you do not know, you're not sure what they're going to say.
Uh, Actually, I would say the integrated, see, preemptive rebuttals just mean that you are rebutting to their points before they actually bring it up. It is, I wouldn't say it's very important to do it that way. It is better to actually integrate the rebuttals in your speech. Why? Because once they have actually spoken what they have spoken about, then you know what to rebut. In a preemptive rebuttal, you are just guessing. You are just guessing that they will bring up this point. They will most probably bring up that point, but you are not sure, right? So if you focus too much on rebutting preemptively, you might end up talking about things that they haven't actually talked about, and it might lead to some loss of your precious time. Uh, so preemptive rebuttals can be done about some topics which about some arguments which are very obvious. You can just strengthen your own case by talking about them. But it is better to integrate your rebuttals after they have actually said what they have talked about. Preemptive rebuttals will actually be like very basic. They'll just be attacking. They will probably be quite shallow. You'll be talking about that, like in the example I gave, you'll be talking that this is not what happens. Rather, when once they have actually presented their case, you know all three: the assumption, the assertion, the mechanization, and the impact. You know all three, so you can properly break down their argument in a structured way, which is my next point: how to structure your uh, rebuttals. So
Sir, could
first
you
you
explain integrated rebuttal once again, sir? I don't understand integrated rebuttals.
Okay. See, integrated rebuttals just means rebutting to your opposition's case in your main speech after they've given their speech. After they've given their speech, basically, you'll have some talking points that you've prepared in your preparation time, right? Uh, Integrated rebuttals means that after the debate starts, based on what is spoken from the opposition team, you integrate new rebuttals into your speech. Okay, based on what they have said. That is basically what it means. And uh, how to actually structure them, that is what I'll be getting to now. That first, the best way is to be clear and concise. You have to tell the judge what you are actually talking about. The clearer you are in the speech, the easier it is for the judge to mark you. The easier it is for the judge to see what argument you are breaking down and how exactly, right? So first you should tell them what you are actually talking about, like this, so and they said so and so, and this is what I'll be rebutting to, right? You can mention that, but don't uh, spend too much time explaining their point. Okay, because it doesn't do you any favor. As long as you're clear about what exactly you're talking about, that's it. Don't go into too much depth, just point it out. uh, then your responses should be tiered. That now this depends a bit on the time that you have left, but the best rebuttals are the rebuttals that counter an argument at every depth of it. First, you can just say that this is not true, right? uh, you can show that at two steps, like the assertion itself is not true, or the mechanization is not the mechanization is flawed. uh, this is not what will happen, rather this will happen. So you can give a response like this, that whatever argument they are saying, it's simply not true. Then here comes the even if. So the even if is a strategy that you use to show the judge that even if you buy into the opposition's argument, it still doesn't hold, right? uh, you are trying to show that whatever they are saying is false, but you don't know for sure if the judge will believe it. So it is best if you show that even if you do tend to side on theirs, if you do tend to side with them, their argument still doesn't hold. Like the assertion is not true for this reason, but even if you buy the assertion, there is a flaw in the mechanization. Even if the assertion is true, it will still not to lead to the argument that they are saying. Even if it leads to the argument, still the impacts will not be as they are stating. Even if these impacts are reached, still these impacts are not as important, right? So this even if analysis like breaks down their argument at every point, and it leaves no place for the judge to like get confused or buy into their paradigm rather than yours. Okay, so you can break your rebuttal down into different tiers. Like uh, first you will rebut that this argument is not true, then you can rebut that even if it is true, this is not important, it is just a sideline, maybe it does not matter as much. And even if it is important, then you weigh. What is weighing? Weighing just means comparing your impacts, your side's arguments to the other sides. Like let's say same apples versus oranges debate. You are saying that let's say apples are tastier than oranges, and the uh, other team is saying that oranges are better because orange is a better color than red, the color of an apple, right? For example, this is the argument that they are saying. So what you could do to break down this argument, you could go with or orange is not a better color than red for this reason. That will be your not true tier, right? That their argument is false. Secondly, you would go that it's not important, that this the color does not really matter. It makes no difference to which fruit is better. That will be a not important here. And then you can follow it up with even if it is important, even if if it has any role to play, then you can wait with your own argument. Your argument being that they are tastier. So you can argue that you can rebut it in this way, that people in a fruit will care about more. They will care more about the taste than the color of the fruit, right? So these are the tiers of your responses, and there are several advantages to doing this. It makes it clear for the adjudicator or the judge to see that the opposing team is wrong. It makes it clear how bad, like how flawed their argument is. It completely breaks down whatever they were saying, and it also makes it very clear why your side is winning as much, and it makes it harder to take down your rebuttal as well. Once you provide them like this tiered response, that it is not true, it is not important, it is and it's less useful than our side's case, then it is easier for them to rebuild their case as well, right? Because now they have three different tiers to counter. uh, and uh, Always talk about what your after you're done explaining, always talk about what your rebuttal actually means. Don't just give your rebuttal and move on. You have to show the judge why it actually matters. You have to show that you have, for example, broken down their case in this way. Maybe you have taken down the assumption that they had based their whole case on, And once you do that, that's a very big thing now, because whatever they've come and said, it makes no sense now because you've taken down the assumption. So you be clear in pointing that out. If you have rebutted some impact of theirs, or if you have provided some let's say some alternative of your own, you have rebutted with some other alternative world where you enact your own policy, then show how the impact, the benefits of your case are better than theirs. Because once you leave it to the judges to interpret what your rebuttal means, uh, they can go either way, right? You cannot really trust the judges much. You have to be as clear and as detailed about it as you can. Any doubts about this? Yeah, Arna. One.
Can we return to the previous slide once again? Just for a second, I need a screenshot.
Yeah, okay, sure. Should I move on?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So how to execute your rebuttals? See, when you are in a debate, it is a lot is going on, right? It gets hard to keep track of everything. So these are some points which will help you, like, point out their point out which rebuttals you can make. So you can run them on the basis of two things. One is likelihood, and the other is importance, right? Uh, likelihood just means how probable is their case. In most debates, you'll have a motion that's fairly balanced, right? And that means that most of the arguments that they'll be making, they will not apply 100% for everybody, right? Their arguments may not hold for everything. There will be a likelihood, like even in the mechanization, when they provide a step-by-step analysis of this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, most of the time you will not have 100% surety that A will lead to B will lead to C. uh, Something else can also happen, right? So you can base your rebuttals on the basis of likelihood. You can tell the judge that what they are saying is actually not likely, rather this is more likely to happen, rather than A leading to B and B leading to C. A might actually lead to something else entirely. It might lead to, say, X, and X leads to Y, and that actually uh, brings harm rather than benefit. Okay, so that is a way you can frame your rebuttal, that they are trying to claim benefits because they say this will happen, then this will happen. Rather, this will not happen because the likelihood of this happening is less. Rather, something else entirely will happen, and this will actually lead to more harm than benefit, and so on and so forth. You can go on like that. Secondly, you could also talk about the importance to the importance to the motion. Like they might be talking about an argument that might not actually be very crucial to the debate at hand, right? So you can also point that out, that how their arguments are not really that important, rather our arguments hold more weight. This usually comes under the aspect of weighing. I can't go into detail as much about that because, like, time constraint, but there are some metrics on which debates are judged. Uh, you see how many people they are benefiting, you see how good the benefit is, you see whether the whatever the argument is, when if it is justified or not, and there are several things. So you can use these metrics to show the judge why our case is actually more important than their case, right? So that is one more thing that you can focus on. And these are just some points that you can use. I would say some of these are a bit advanced, and remembering this can be a bit tough. I would say you could take a screenshot for now, and you could go through these on your own. I'll be returning to it if I have the time. I'll just go through
Excuse
them.
me, sir.
Yeah.
So can you go to the black side once, please?
Okay. This one.
Thank you, sir.
Can I move on?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. Uh, so counter framing is what I explained, like if you know that they are going to bring up a point, you can just frame your arguments in a way that their point doesn't stand as much now. You can incorporate that in your speech beforehand. uh, Secondly, you could, as I said, their assumptions. Now you could target their assumptions that they haven't proved. You can say that these are not false, rather this is what a correct assumption would be, or this is the reason why this does not hold true. You could rebut the mechanism, you could rebut the impacts. And one last thing is, sometimes the opposition, not sometimes, many times the opposing team will bring up arguments that you will feel are actually symmetric in your case as well. uh, let's say, for example, okay, let me just give you an example off the top of my head. The feminism case itself, they say that uh, if women get, if feminism focuses on the rural women, then they will get more jobs. For example, this is the argument that they're stating. What you can do is, if you are providing an alternative that feminism continue as it is, focusing equally on urban and rural women, then you can say that this argument is actually symmetrical, because symmetrical basically means that whatever they are claiming also happens in your world, and hence their world isn't better, right? Because it's the same thing in both the worlds, it's equal. So you can't really compare the world in the same way. You can say that feminism focusing on urban and rural women both also increases opportunities, even for the urban women as well. And once these women come to power, they'll support other women, and this will lead to a better impact, and so on. And you can claim it to be symmetrical, that women are getting opportunities to get jobs in both of our paradigms. It's not a very good example, but it's what I can think of right now. I'll say another one if I can think of anything later. Usually what you want to do is, first of all, you want to show that their case isn't better, and then you want to move on to say that your case is better than theirs, or their case is actually worse than yours. So once you make it symmetrical, you want to say that these are some more harms that they have, or you want to say these are some additional benefits that we have. uh, okay, this I would say is a little bit of an advanced topic, but I'll try to explain it to the best of my ability. Contradictory versus alternative rebuttals. Contradictory basically means that whatever they have said is simply untrue, it is false. Alternative is that why something else is true. And it will be clearer with an example. uh, I'll go to the example first, and then we can have the doubts. uh, let's say this is the motion. The House opposes attempts of the feminist movement to redefine roles and behaviors traditionally associated with women, wearing makeup, trying to be a housewife, as empowering. So basically, what this motion means is that the government side would oppose that the feminist movement redefines the rules, uh, redefining roles would mean that, say, wearing makeup and trying to be a housewife, feminist movement will support these by saying that being a housewife is a great thing, it's a very big job, it's very crucial, and these women are great, these housewives are very good people, and they're performing a very good task. Or wearing makeup is empowering women, and so on and so forth, that it is their choice, something like that. So that would be redefining roles and behaviors as empowering. Okay. And the government side opposes this. Okay. And we are thinking from the opposition side. And the argument that we want to run is that women uh, women who will be alienated from the feminist movement. Okay, so women will also be wanting for to campaign for other things like equal pay, and they will feel alienated if feminism starts to uh, focus more on these things, right? Okay, so let's say the PM has come and given this argument. that these roles are forced on the women, and they don't have a way to opt out of them, right? Most women are forced to be housewives, or they are forced to wear makeup to appear attractive by the social convention and stuff like that. And this is why feminism needs to establish a culture where not feminism, the feminist movement needs to establish a culture where it is acceptable to opt out of these behaviors, right? uh, just give me a second, I think there is a mistake. Yeah, no, it's fine. Right. So the PM is trying to oppose the celebration of these housewives and make up all these social rules, right? They are trying to oppose celebrating them. So what the PM comes and says is that if we celebrate all these, then uh, it makes it difficult for women who are forced into these roles to actually uh, get out of this role, right? So uh, a woman might not want to be a housewife, but is forced into being one. And if we celebrate housewives as being very great people and so on and so forth, then this woman would feel that she has no out, right? She has no exit from this place where she doesn't want to be. So how could you rebut it? You could rebut it in two different ways. One, you could say that this is not true. How would you say that? You would say that it is not that the women are forced. Many women who actually like being these housewives, you actually who like wearing makeup and so on and so forth. And since they are not forced, uh, then your argument is simply not true. They are not forced, so that whole having an exit thing, it's just false. That is an alternative rebuttal. Uh, then there's a contradictory rebuttal that uh, let me just bring this slide again. See, contradictory is explaining why the other side is untrue, and alternative is explaining how something else entirely is true, right? So when we give an alternative rebuttal, we are explaining that uh, the case is actually something else. The case is that women actually want to do this. It is not that the women are forced. Contradictory would be that uh, the contradictory rebuttal here would be that there are no clear mechanisms how women are forced into these behaviors, and even if they are forced, then opt out is eventually possible, right? So to rephrase, in alternative rebuttal, you are saying that whatever you are basing this upon, it's not true. Rather, this thing is what happens. Like women are not forced; women actually want this. In a contradictory rebuttal, you are showing that even if they are forced, then whatever you are saying does not actually follow. Why? Because uh, because they actually have an opt out, right? They can stop wearing makeup. They can actually focus more on their careers. They can divorce or whatever. They can stop being housewives and so on. Therefore, there are many people who will actually buy into these opt out mechanisms if they want, and it will be fine. So whatever you have followed up your assumption, your assertion with, it does not hold and it's false. So in alternative rebuttal, you have shown that the world is not like this, the world is actually like this. In contradictory rebuttal, you say that in this world that you're trying to show, uh, your whatever you're trying to prove, that does not hold. It's okay if you're a bit confused. It is a bit confusing, and it's not really that important as at this level, I would say. You can choose to ignore it if you want. The main key takeaways would be from the earlier slides, how to basically form your rebuttals. I think that's enough for the enough to get you like used to rebutting the opponent's points, right? Uh, yeah, I'll just have some doubts if there are any, and then I'll be.
Yeah. Could you explain what rebuting unproven assumptions are?
Uh, okay, so like I said, their whole case will start from an assumption, right? They can't uh, they will realistically not be able to prove each and everything. Like there is a base point to start for anything. Like you can go to a certain depth asking why this, why this, why this. At a point you will reach like a basic starting point. That is the assertion that they are claiming. uh, so sometimes what will happen, the assertion that they're claiming to be true and then building their case upon it, it will not actually be very close to human morals, or you will find that re- uh, you will find that to not be objectively true. You will be able to give reasons to why their assumption itself is not true. For example, the assertion here from them was that these roles are forced onto women. So when you provided an alternative rebuttal, you just said that women are actually not forced into this. Women opt into these behaviors. So this is basically how you can see they did not force. They did not prove anywhere that women are forced. Right? They did not prove that. So you are free to question it. Once you provide a rebuttal, you can give reasons as to why you think that women opt into these rules rather than being forced into it. You could provide reasons as many housewives feel that this is that they have a very big role uh, in the house, and uh, like you could make up your own rebuttals to that, and you can question this assertion that they made that these are forced on women. Here is where the contradictory rebuttal helps as well, because you say that even if some women are forced, we can see that there are women who are breaking these norms, who are stopping being housewives and focusing on their careers and so on. So it is not like women are forced and they have no out. So that is why that is how you can contest their assertions. uh,
All right.
I'll yeah I think we are short on time, so I'll be taking it a bit fast now. I apologize for that. I wanted to cover some common mistakes. Usually uh, during rebuttals we tend to go along the lines of uh, yes but so and so. What this is like is the opponent has said something, and you take that at face value and you say okay fine, but our side says this. That is not what you want to do. You want to actually engage with their case, show the judge that what they're saying is not true. Not that okay fine, you might claim this, but we have this in our case. What you want to do is you actually want to break their case down and show that this case is wrong, and then want to carry on about whatever you're doing. Because if you just go yes but, then what happens is the judge just states it that you are agreeing with the opponent, and that whatever argument is being contested, it will like just go to their case, right? Because to the judge you never contested it, you just went on speaking about your own case. Second is mitigating their case. Mitigating means showing that their case's impacts are not there. So a best case mitigation would be that whatever impacts they have shown do not exist. It's null. That seems like a good thing to do, but it's actually not. Why? Because after your speech is done, the opponent can come and just prove a very marginally better advantage, right, in their case. And if the judge buys into that, even that tiny advantage will win them the debate, right? So what you want to do is not just show that their case is that their case has no benefit. You want to show that their case actively shows harm, right? It actively leads to harm, because that is much harder to rebut. They will not be able to get that small positive delta, right? They cannot just now get away with a tiny bit betterment on their side, because they also have to counter these harms that you have shown. uh, Third would be rebutting with they fail to do this. For example, usually what happens is when debaters just learn about this assertion mechanism impact, they just they just state they fail to show their mechanism, they fail to uh, flesh out their impact, something like that. But that is not really the best thing to do. You should take their case in its you should take their argument in its best case and then break it down. Even if they have failed to show a good mechanization, then you can clearly, once you point out to the judge that their mechanization is missing, then you uh, continue on that and prove that this is what will actually happen, this is what the true mechanization is, and you can use that to your benefit to show that actually it's your point that they support, right? uh, that is some common mistakes. Some more would be that taking a very narrow example of their case, like they are talking about the general public, for example, and you pick out a very small case, very unlikely case, and you say how your arguments work better in that case. They may, but then they can simply come and say that this is a very small percentage of the population. It's like 1-2%. We are talking about the rest of the 98%, and that clearly wins them the argument, right? So you should take their case in the most. You should take their argument in the most general case and argue on the basis of that. Uh, you should not take too much time focusing on just one point that they have said. Uh, you should focus more on these important points, the most devastating points, right? You should give the most destructive rebuttals, as I said, and you should allot your time well to all the points that they have said, so that you don't run out of time to actually rebut to the important things. And when you rebut to the arguments, don't buy into them. Like what happens is, once you start to talk about their arguments, uh, you sometimes get confused about what your own case was. So don't start accepting whatever they said. One more thing which happens is the same thing with yes but, right? So don't buy into their arguments. Don't start saying like yeah, this may be true, but in our case it is this, because that uh, gives the judge more incentive to actually side with them. Try to oppose them as much as possible. I'm not saying it's not possible to actually agree with them on some points. You can do that, but the lesser the better, basically. uh, then, as I said, always show the impacts of your rebuttal. Uh, tell why your rebuttal was important, what effects it had, and why the judge should consider it as crucial. Don't leave any arguments unrebutted. Like what, just make a list of whatever the arguments that they made, even if it seems ridiculous to you. Don't just leave it out at its face value. Make sure that you prove each and every one of their arguments to be wrong to the judge, right? Even if you don't go into much depth into about the unimportant points, you still you should rebut to those arguments, because if you don't contest to any point that they have said, that point just goes to them, right? uh, Talking about assertions, don't just replace their assertion with your assertion. Like don't just say uh, like in that case of the feminism motion that we just discussed, don't just say that women aren't forced, women actually want this. Say why you think their assumption is untrue and why your assumption is true. It is very important to actually provide a reasoning to your alternative assertion that you are providing, because then if you don't, then the judges, like again, it's like rolling a dice. The judge is free to choose whichever they want, right? And make sure that whatever they are rebutting to your arguments, you rebuild your arguments, you rebut to their rebuttals as well. Because once they rebut to something, it becomes a major clash within the debate. It is something which is contested, and you don't want to leave them with the last say, I would say. Like if they just show something that these are the flaw, then rebuild your case. uh, I'll be skipping the doubts for now. I'll take some at the end. POIs basically mean the questions that you're asking. These are some types of the POI. You could ask them why they think whatever they are saying is true, or you could ask them about an extension, that if you think that this is true, do you also support this other thing? What would that other thing be? Something which is related, which follows from the same principles or morals. but it is it is clear that this thing is wrong. I'm sorry, I know I'm going a bit fast here, but you could also rebut in your POI itself. You could, but you need to keep it very short. You could say that whatever you have said for this is wrong because of this, right? You can also say this in your POI, and they will then have to answer to it. But do not say you did not prove something, uh, because that is not a very good POI, to be honest. They can provide any small mechanization and they'll just get away with it. Rather, they'll get some extra points for doing that. You are just, it's like reminding them that they need to they need to fulfill their burdens better, right? uh, then third is you can remind them to engage. Maybe you have said, you have rebutted to some point in your speech, or you have given some arguments, and they are taking a completely parallel case. Then you can tell them to engage with your case. That is something which you can do in a PY, right? Because engagement leads to a better quality of debate. And lastly is the weighing. Weighing just means comparing the two cases. You can say that whatever you have said XYZ, it is less important because of what it is less important than what we have said because of this, right? So these are the these are the types
So
of
could you
POIs.
give an example of trap binding POI?
Okay. For example, let's say, okay, uh, let's say the topic is about there is a person who has some land which has say uranium. Okay. uh, uh, the government is trying to take that land to extract that uranium, and that uranium will obviously lead to the benefit of the country's people and lead to they'll get a lot of energy production from it, and so on and so forth. So the motion talks that government should forcibly take the land away from the man, right? uh, so if they are trying to support this, that the government should take away uh, this land forcibly because it leads to the benefit of people, you could ask that do they also support, let's say, the government just acting on its whims, doing whatever it thinks is right, or for example, building a road when a person is contesting for their piece of land, right? If they're not ready to give it up, then it is okay for them to build a road forcibly. Or even better, you could ask them, do they support uh, uh, let's say person stealing somebody's money uh, and helping and distributing it among poor people. Like, you could compare it to that, right? Because that will lead to a benefit of many people at the expense of that one person, because that is what the government is basically contesting on, right? So it was maybe difficult to see that it is wrong or right when it is a case of a land with enriched with uranium and stuff. But it is quite easy to think that the government can't steal your personal property and your money and just distribute it amongst poor people. So that is how you can connect, and you can ask if you also support this. And even if you think that something they are saying is wrong, then you can basically contest them in this kind of POI, that why do you think that this leads to this, and why not this be a result of something else, whatever you could ask that. uh,
Excuse.
when, yeah.
Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt, but can we like also ask them questions which is like a little distant from what they've said, but it's a bit, but it is related to the motion. But is it necessary that we have to ask POYs related to what they've said and not what the motion says,
Uh,
like that?
okay. Uh, yeah. See, you can ask them if they are missing something that's very crucial to the debate, then you can ask them the POI. But usually POIs are encouraged in the same domain of what they are speaking about. Usually POIs are there to question whatever they are saying, right? You don't want to ask them something that is like far away from their case. If you feel they are missing out on a point, you could point it out in a POI, and you could also bring it up in your speech as well. You can elaborate about that point in your own speech, and you can say that the opposition didn't really talk about this much, or they
Okay.
just seem to ignore it or something like that. Yes,
Okay,
Arna, do
sir.
you have a question? Uh, okay, I'll be continuing. Uh, yeah. So when to take POIs, it is better to take POIs around like earlier rather than later, because then you will have more time to go into depth about the rebuttal that you're going to give to the POI, right? So it's better to take it a bit early on, because you also want some time at the last to wrap up your speech as well. Uh, Furthermore, in case you don't have a clear response, you can uh, the best thing to do in that case is like wait. If you don't have an exact response to what they are saying, it will probably always be beneficial to you if you compare the two cases and you say this is what we are showing the benefits of, and this is what they're claiming. But even if what they're claiming is true, our case is much more important, much more better, and so on and so forth. If the POI is too confusing, then it's probably confusing for the judge as well, and you don't have much to worry about, to be honest. Uh, I'll be skipping the doubts for now. The last point would be rebuilding. Uh, I just have one slide on this. So rebuilding basically means once the opposing team has rebutted to your case, then you just have to rebuild your case as well. Like they have pointed out some flaw, they have claimed there are some flaws in your case, and they might have said that this doesn't work. So you need to reinforce it, right? Because if you just leave it at that, then the judge will believe them, and then the judge will think that your points don't stand, and whatever you said before, it will just come crumbling down. So it makes sense that you actually rebuild onto what your previous speakers have said, or whatever points that have been rebutted to. When you rebuild, um, uh, keep in consideration that you don't just repeat what your previous speaker has already said. Like, let's say your PM came and said point A, B, C. The opposition comes and says that point B does not hold because of this reason. Don't just come in and state point B. That doesn't help you in any way. What you need to actually do is you could provide a new or deeper reasoning onto how point B still works, right? They may have maybe questioned the mechanism. So you could provide a more depth into the mechanism, into the mechanization, that, oh, see, this is why this would happen. You could elaborate more on that. Or you could also provide an alternative mechanization that even if this outcome is not reached from this path, it is reached from this other path as well. And hence our points still stand. Also, what you can do is rebut their rebuttal, right? A rebuttal will also consist of some points, right? And there may be flaws in their rebuttal as well. So you could rebut their rebuttal as well, that they are saying that we are wrong in this, but actually it's their rebuttal that has these faults. What they are claiming is not true because of so and so, right? So you could attack their rebuttal, or you could reinforce your own case, right? So these are the two things that you could do, and you should focus a lot on this rebuilding aspect, and engaging with the rebuttals, because as a judge you are told that you have to take you have to give the most importance to you have to give more importance to the points that are more debated in the discussion, right? So if there are more rebuttals about a clash, the importance of that clash rises. So you need to reinforce your points. You need to say why your points still hold. You need to say what the opposition has said why that does not hold, and it makes it crucial to winning the debate. I am done with my presentation here, and you can ask me any of the doubts, and I'll be sharing the presentation on the group, so you don't need to worry about the screenshots and stuff.
Is this
Any
session over?
doubt? Uh, you It's open for any doubts if you want, right? Or if you want me to re-explain a slide or something, like you
So
can
could you
do
explain
that.
the types of reverses?
Types of rebuttals. Give me a second. Uh, this one, the this contradictory and alternative rebuttal part.
Uh, Execution one and two. Yes.
Okay, fine, fine. Yeah. So, what I said was, like to think of rebuttals, you can talk about two aspects, right? One is likelihood and one is importance. You can question the likelihood by saying that whatever case you are running, it has a very low probability that this will actually happen. Uh, Rather, it is more likely that our case will happen, right? So this is one thing which you could point out, that whatever they are claiming has actually a very low probability or zero probability. That is what comes in likelihood, that what they are saying, it's not likely that this will occur. Second would be the importance, that whatever they are saying, it's not important to the scope of the debate. For example, like the apples and oranges case I gave, you could rebut the color of the fruit as being an unimportant clash, because people don't really care about the color of the fruit. They care more about, say, taste or health, if you're talking about the taste or health, right? Uh, these are some things that you would keep in mind. uh, then execution two, this is basically like, you could say, a checklist of all the things that you could do to talk about your rebuttals. This I've talked about most of these points before. These are not really types of rebuttals, I would say. These are just ways that you can execute your rebuttals. During the debate, how you could keep in mind that how to give efficient rebuttals. Like, it's easier to remember likelihood and importance. It's easy to remember that every argument they give, just ask yourself, is it likely? Does it matter? Just ask yourself two questions, and if it doesn't hold, you will have a rebuttal ready, right? uh, these are all the points that you could go with when you are giving a rebuttal. You could keep some arguments of the opposition in mind when you are making your speeches in the first place. Have preemptive rebuttals, for example. You could question their assumptions. All arguments will have an assumption at the core of it. Uh, if that assumption is not objectively true, then you can question it and you can prove it to be actually false, right? Uh, Third would be rebutting the mechanisms, and then rebutting the impacts. Uh, so, like I explained, mechanisms are the journey from point A to point B, from their assertion to the final point that they're trying to prove. And if you find a flaw in that in their mechanization, or if you find a hole in that mechanization, a logical gap that you are not able to, for certainly say that this will lead to this in any step, then that you can rebut the mechanism. And the impacts you can rebut as well, uh, whether their impacts actually are what they are stating to be. Is this actually what the impact will be? Is their impact as much as they are claiming it to be? So that is what you can do with rebutting impacts. And co-opting arguments just means that they could prove an entire argument and uh, lead to some outcome, but you claim that this outcome is there in our case as well. That in our case, it's no different from what their paradigm is proposing. So that is what being symmetric means. So once you do that, then their argument fails to put them in an advantage. It just becomes equal if you do it well, is what I mean. And once you make it symmetric, then you can point out that these are the harmful effects of your paradigm, and these are the additional benefits that are exclusive to our paradigm. So that makes it difficult to rebut to your rebuttals, right? uh, Anything else?
So you said that co-opting arguments, saying that these advantages are already present in our assertion. Uh, will be proving to be beneficial, but then you said that when we are doing a rebuttal, we should not we should avoid saying yes, but this so and so is that, uh, due
Okay,
to
okay.
the fact that it will lead to the ADJ believing that you agree with some of the opposition's assertions. So I didn't understand.
Okay, fine. I got your point. Okay, so co-opting means, see, when I said that you should avoid, what I meant was like you should avoid giving a clash to the opposing team. Like you should not just say, ki, yes, this may be true, but we have this, right? Let's say you should say, yes, they say A and it may be true, but we have B. When you do this, you simply hand A to them, right? The edge will say that, okay, the clash of over the point A, it goes to the opposition team, because you just accepted that they are right about A. You may have spoken about B, but you still handed A out, right? It would be better if you disprove that what A point they are claiming, that's actually false. If you do that, that's better for you. What making it symmetrical means is, you say that they say they have A on their side, but that's not true. A is symmetric in both of our cases. Even I have the benefits of A, whatever the point A is, right? Uh, Let me think of an example for this. I think it will be better. Let's just take the feminism focuses on rural areas for a bit. Let's say they are talking about how feminism improves the education of women, for example, right? So you, if you say that yes, it may improve the education of rural women, but in our case, urban women get more job opportunities, for example, right? What this would be is, you're handing over the education of rural women point to the opposing team, right? This is not what you want to do. What you could do is either break it down that even if feminism focuses on rural areas, then it is not that education of the women will get better in rural areas. You can do this by many ways. This is your best. This is the best thing that you can do. Like completely take away the opposition's case. If you can't do that, you can claim it to be symmetric. How do you claim it to be symmetric? You could say something along the lines that feminism working on education is not exclusive there to their side, right? Feminism can also work. The feminist movement can also work on education in our paradigm, where we are focusing both on urban and rural areas. So it is not that women's education getting better is just a point in their paradigm. It is also in our paradigm. It's like more it's symmetric to in both cases. They don't have this point, we both have this point. That is what you say when it's being symmetric. And you also don't want to leave it here. You want to continue further by saying by actually providing an additional benefits on your side and additional harms on their side, exclusive, right? For example, like, don't go on the validity of my arguments here. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. I just want you to understand like the difference between the two. If you say that in our case, when we are focusing both on urban and rural, we are actually benefiting both. We are actually benefiting the education of both urban women and rural women. So urban women are also benefited. Uh, so that is an additional benefit on your side, for example, right? And you could provide an additional harm on their side, that if we focus too much on rural women, then urban women which provide more support to the feminist movement, they start to feel left out, and they'll withdraw their support, and hence feminist movement will lose its track, I would say. Like that would be an exclusive harm on their side. So this is how you can first make an argument symmetric, and then go on about proving how yours is better than theirs. Uh, of course, these points can be reverted. by them as well, but you can continue along this road, right? Anything else? Okay. Sir, a common don't repeat an assertion with an assertion. What does that mean? Okay, that just meant that if you are questioning their assertion, whatever assertion they made, don't just state your assertion, because then the judge is up. It is up to the adjudicator to decide which one of the which of the two assertions they want to side with. Uh, Instead, you should provide reasons as to why your assertion is more likely to be true, why your assertion is a better assertion than theirs, and why their assertion is probably false. Why you don't believe it, buy into their assertion. What faults that does their assertions are. Once you provide this reasoning, these reasons as to why their assertion is false and why yours is true, that is when it makes the judge more likely to buy into your assertions as opposed to theirs. Uh, the session is done from my side. I'm just taking doubts. If anyone wants to leave, then they're free to do so. This PPT, I would be sharing the PPT with you all. Yeah. Any other questions? Are there no further doubts? I guess you can conclude the session then.
So we have one by Shreya Nayak.
Yeah, go on, Shay.
Yes, sir. I basically had a doubt in the counter framing part.
Okay. Uh, uh, yeah, go on. The counter framing. Could you like
Sir, it
expand
was
more on it?
right there on your screen, like the rebuttal tool, exemption to
Okay, this one.
execution. Yes, yes, yes. Counter
Yeah.
framing.
Counter framing. Yeah. So this basically it's the same about it's the same thing as the preemptive rebuttals. Basically, you when you're in your preparation time, when you're thinking about your case, you also think about the opposition's case, right? Like what are the major points that they are likely to bring up, and if you feel that this is a very important point that is very likely to come up in their speech, then in your first speech itself you can like put some uh, rebuttals to it in the form of like just like that example I gave, right? Commercial surrogacy, that they will be it is like quite clear that they'll be bringing up the point that childless parents opt into this so that they can get children and so on and so forth. And this is obviously a point that they'll be bringing up. And a rebuttal to this is that you have other ways to do that. You don't have to go the surrogacy way. You can adopt, for example, right? So you can mention this in your first speech as well. You don't have to say like my opposition might say that there are people who need to get children of their own but they can't, and so on and so forth. You don't need to say that. You can just say that for the people who are childless and want to have children from their own, there are alternatives that are present, for example adoption. And this adoption and increasing adoption will also benefit the lives of orphans and reduce the burden on adoption homes, so on and so forth. So you could actually make it a point in your case as well. See, so you uh, preemptively saw what the opposition's case would be. You counter framed your own arguments. You counter framed your own case with respect to it. You included that point. Now they can't go ahead with the point that there are people who can't have children, right? Because you already covered it by saying there are alternatives to adoption. There are alternatives like adoption. rather they'll have to think more about it, how to counter adoption as a point, right? And that is much more difficult. So that is what counter framing means, that uh, thinking about what your opponent could say and then reinforcing your case with respect to whatever you think that they're going to say. You don't want to leave any
Okay.
weaknesses yourselves that they could target.
Okay, sir, but the thing is that basically this counter framing works when we are like the first speakers before our opponent speaks, right? We like counter framing mainly works for the government. Just ask. I'm confused.
No, no, not necessarily. It also works for the opposition as well. Like, let's say you're the leader of op, and there is some point that has not come in the PM speech, but you're pretty sure that the DPM will come and expand on it. Uh, so you could like incorporate it in your speech, just as I gave the example of the PM incorporating it in theirs. Like both sides can do it, and it's not just the PM, right? It can also be as a part of the DPM and DLO speech, although it's a bit less frequent, like it's kind of rare. But usually when it comes to say weighing the case, which is extensively fleshed out by the whip, but if they know that they are going to weigh on some metric, for example, then the DPM or the DLO can also talk about how their case is better. Even before that weighing part comes in, they can introduce it in their speech as well. But usually it's there for the first speakers, mostly preemptive rebuttals for gov and op both.
Okay, sir, got it.
Anything else? I guess we can conclude the session here.
Right. So thank you so much, sir, for having that wonderful session. I'll just end the session. Uh, Stop recording.